Okay, we're about to get going on the application, but before we do, I'd like to take a quick second and talk about directives in Angular, and in particular, how we might go about creating our own custom directives. And the reason is that we'll be seeing some things that we won't have seen before, and in particular, we'll see things like MD toolbar, or maybe we'll see MD button. And so these are elements, these are HTML elements, but they are not any kind of standard HTML element. They're custom ones. And the way that we are able to get some custom elements like these is with Angular's directives. Now these would only be understood by an Angular application, and only if the directives that make these elements work are present, like they will be if we have the Angular material library. And so earlier we said that ng-app up here and ng-controller are directives as well. And these are attributes on an element, on the body element in particular here. And directives can be used by referencing them as an attribute on an element, or they can be used as the element name themselves. And there's two other ways to use directives as well. You can call them in a comment or in a CSS class, but those two methods aren't really used as often as you would see element names or attribute names like this. All right, so essentially what we want to get to is to have our own custom directive called hello world accessed from its own element like this. And we want to have this just print out hello world to the screen. So that's what we're going to make happen with our own custom directive. But just before we do that, I've realized that we need to bring in Angular material to our project and also the dependencies that it relies on as well. And we need to make script references to them. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in right there, and I'll let you copy that down before we go on. Okay, so if you've had a chance to do that, we can save things here, and let's head over to our app.js file. Now, if you are going to do your own directives, you'll generally put them in their own files and have kind of a different way of ordering them. But for now, let's just tack a directive onto our Angular module just to save some time. And the way that we access a directive is we say we want a directive, and then we give it a name. And in this case, it's going to be hello world. And so something to notice here is that we have put this in what's known as camel case. We've got the capital W, lowercase h, and over here in index.html, it's in kebab case. We've got the dash that separates the two words, and everything is lowercased. So a quick note is that Angular is going to take anything here that is in camel case, and it's going to automatically convert it to kebab case so that it can properly work in an HTML document. All right, so the next thing we need is an anonymous function. And within the function, we need to return an object. And this returned object is what is known as the directive definition object. Now, directives definitely get really complex and there's a lot to them. But just for the sake of demonstration, all that we really want to do is display something to the screen. So for that, we can say template, and we can put in a string template here. We can maybe put in an h1 and then just say hello world. Now, if we save that, we should be able to go over to the browser and see it work. So let's head back over to our browser, refresh, and there it is on the screen. So just to recap that, in our index.html file here, all we have is this new special element called hello world. And it doesn't itself have any kind of content that says hello world in it, but rather that is coming through our directive definition where we've defined a template in line here. Now, the other thing we can do is we can template something out much like we would in our HTML file with the double curly braces. So here I'm going to put message as a property to template out. Then over here in classifieds, let's put that on scope. So we'll say scope.message equals hello world. And just to see things are different this time, I will put 3 exclamation points. So back over to Chrome, if we refresh, you see it comes through as well. All right, so just to recap, directives are special markers on HTML elements that either come through the element name themselves or the attribute name, or also through class names or comments. And these markers give these elements certain behavior that we can define. And the way that this behavior is defined is within our directive definition object. Really, this just skims the surface on directives, but I thought it might be helpful to see how a directive works, just so that once we run into all of the Angular material specific directives, that we aren't surprised by what we see.